live and die by your Google Calendar, you are going to be as efficient as a human being as you possibly can. One of my superpowers is being self-disciplined and time block. That is why Google Calendar for me is so important. I look at it 50 times a day. I'm moving things, I'm shortening things, I'm lengthening things, I'm prioritizing things. If you don't control your day controls you.
All right, welcome to an episode of Real Estate vs. Technology. I'm your host, Norman Kinsey. Super excited for today's podcast guest. We're going to go to Philly today. But before we talk a little bit about him, I want to encourage you to like, subscribe, notification bell. And if you have a compelling story, hey, why not reach out to us and see about getting on the show yourself. Big thank you to Liftoff Agent, who sponsors the show, and our team behind the scenes for the editing, the production, the thumbnail, and the whole nine. So speaking of going to Philly, we're going to talk to someone who also is a father of a 7-year-old, just like mine, just like me. We also have hot wives, which is awesome, and someone who has a team and also has a podcast. Tim, welcome to Real Estate vs. Technology Unleashed. Super excited to have you on the show. Unleashed means anything goes. Anything goes here.
Norm, let's do it, man. I'm excited.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I love it. So you've been in business for about 15 years, which is awesome. And then you kicked off this podcast, which is also great. We're going to get into that and technology in today's episode so we can give some enlightenment and really help our viewers and listeners take something from our show to really just apply to their business. If it's just one thing. But going from the beginning to the catalyst of why even real estate, I mean, your family in real estate, is this something that you stumbled upon? What were you doing before? I'm curious how you got here.
Yeah, the long story short is, so I'm from the greater Philadelphia my entire life. I lived half my life in the suburbs and I lived half my life in the city proper in Philly.
Okay.
And being from here, generational roots, my mom's side, multiple generations, as well as my dad. And I went to school locally. I went to college in Philadelphia, LaSalle University, go Explorers. And in school, I was just very driven by people, very curious by people, had a lot of relationships, and I became a marketing major. And in marketing, I learned I was good at sales, that I was a confident presenter, that I knew how to get my point across. I was creative. Mm-hmm. And I got out of school, and just like most people, I got into corporate America, but I got in a little bit differently. I became a street loan officer before a big company for JP Morgan Chase. For a couple of years, parlayed that into a management position with one of the largest builders in the country, which is Pulte Homes. In their mortgage department. And then, the Great Recession happened, 2008, 2009, lost my job, newly married, and just said, you know what? I've always been kind of scrappy. I've been, I've been grinding since I was young. I was selling papers when I was 8 and putting up beach equipment in 90-degree weather, people renting it out for the day in Ocean City, New Jersey, and restaurants. And, I've always been a grinder, a hustler, a hard worker. And I said, I think it's time to just do something on my own and just take it from here. So I was about 30 years old when I got my real estate license. And then as far as roots, like my grandfather was in commercial real estate and my dad was also a loan officer for 40 plus years. So I did have some family doing it.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I think, grassroots help, especially when you have someone who's already in the industry doing something with that. And that's awesome that you just applied what you already knew into this world. And good old 2008, huh? I mean, talk about tough times, but at the end of the day, what do they say? No pressure, no diamonds, right? So it's and you're like, all right, well, I'm married. I got to take care of the missus and our family to come. So got to keep on keeping on. And so 15 years now in, so why not the mortgage side? Why'd you go on the real estate side?
The real estate side to me was always just more personable. Like it was really building relationships with people, being more of a trusted advisor. I mean, not that mortgage people aren't, they are, but it's a little bit more numbers driven. It's a little bit more commoditized. Yeah. Once the transaction's done, you're kind of done with them. If you refi, maybe a couple years later, whatever, you buy another house. I mean, real estate agents, like, honestly, is as important as it is to educate people and advise them through the transaction, whether they're buying, selling, renting, or investing. what really matters, in my opinion, is the long-term, the lifelong relationship that you offer. Not everyone does it this way, but this is how I've built my business. Letting people know, your transaction was how we met and how we got started. Now you're stuck with me, because the real value comes
Love that.
once you become a homeowner or a home seller or just a client, through my business.
Yeah, 100%. And before we actually got filming, we talked about that, and we talked about, you also have a podcast as well. We can talk about as well on our show here. And on your show, you interviewed an individual, and she talked about failing forward, and also talked about the fact that like she has a ecosystem that she has built. So like you just said, like once we work together, you're stuck with me. And I feel like so many individuals out there, and if this is you might want to take some notes here, is that, it's like transactions done and then like, that's it. And they may go into automation, CRM, drip system, speaking of technology, but there's so much more that can had happen from the perspective of technology, but also from the perspective of client parties. You have all these vendors. You own a home, you need things like, whether it's for the pool, or maybe you need someone to cut the grass, or home cleaner, or maybe security, or a bug person. My wife hates bugs. So there's so much more that can happen. So let's go a little bit deeper on the philosophy, your ideologies, as far as once someone works with you, they're stuck with you. What does that look like? How do you serve your clients for the long term after they purchase with you?
Yeah, a couple stats here. I love using stats because it puts things into perspective. So if someone listens to this, like let's say they're in business, but maybe they're not specifically in real estate, they're an entrepreneur. Yep. So a couple of things. One stat from last year, whether it's truly accurate or not, was about 70% of agents didn't do any transactions. So think about that. That's crazy. Another stat is 5 years or less, 87% of people who get licensed will get in and out of the industry. So only 13% survive after 5 years. And even out of that 13%, there is a big portion of them who are barely making enough money to live. Like they're probably getting by, but they're not setting the world on fire. So it's really like the top like 5% or so, let's call it 5-7% of the agents dominate the residential real estate market. They either do it solo as a successful agent, or they do it as a team, which I have as well. So I think understanding those stats, when I got in, I kind of knew that a lot of people didn't do very well. So it was like fuel and fire for me to just say, you know what, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to prove people wrong and show them what I can do. Because I didn't have, a rich relative like feeding me business. I didn't have this monster investor client like ready to go and all you needed was a license. I didn't have a team feeding me business or a brokerage feeding me business. I literally got into this business and just said, I'm just going to figure it out. I'm just going to start from the ground. And I made $15,000 in my first year. But what I realized, this is where the relationships come in, is I started doing some content marketing early on, mostly blogging. And my second year, I tripled that. I made 45,000. And I was kind of like, well, why did that happen? And when I looked at my business, I'm like, look, a lot of it came through word of mouth, which meant that my content was actually being read, was people were paying attention to it and building trust with me. And I was only in my second year in real estate.
Let's go.
And then, year after year, I just strengthened the relationships further. I added more touch points. I did some in-person stuff. I did, pop-by gifts and handwritten notes. And I've always done content. So just like everything combined, in my opinion, that's how you build a relationship. It's like you have to be omnipresent in the lives of the people because some people like the written word, some people like video, some people like audio, some people like belly to belly or handshakes. And if you meet people where they're at, everyone's going to be involved in what you're doing.
I love that. And that's where I feel like the technology portion, because some like to resist. And that's where the technology is, I feel like, so pertinent, because you could do the things like the blog content and have a website or a podcast and social content, long and or short, to be able to add that additional value when you're not able to be belly to belly or shake the hand or send that text message, make that phone call. And there's timing for that as well. And I feel like that's where the widest net possible can help you be able to funnel down to serve those that are ready to buy or sell.
Agreed.
I love
Absolutely.
that. I
Yeah,
love
and
that. Yeah.
I think for me too. So let's touch on some of the tech stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a very simple tech guy. Like
Okay.
I don't get crazy with the AI. Do I use it? Of course I do. Am I aware of its capabilities? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm very simple. Like, let's talk about easy tech. What's some of the easy tech I use? One of my favorite things to use is Google Calendar. And people are like, "What? That's not tech." Of course it is. Because if you live and die by your Google Calendar, which I do it for my personal life as well as my business, my career,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be as efficient as a human being as you possibly can, because one of my superpowers is being self-disciplined and time blocking. So that is why Google Calendar for me is so important. I look at it 50 times a day. I'm moving things, I'm shortening things, I'm lengthening things, I'm prioritizing things. Something popped up. I had to put out a fire. Guess what? I have to move that to tomorrow or next month, depending what it is. So just like Google Calendar being a very, very basic tech tool, but being one of the most overlooked tech tools, because if you don't control your day controls you. And I'm a big foundational, fundamental kind of guy with that stuff.
I love that. I love that. And speaking of what you just spoke on, like they say, and it's probably like you said, 7 or 5% now, but the top 10% does 90% of the business across the country, getting back into stats. And so we'll take it down to 7%. And that 7% does exactly what Tim does: live and die by a calendar. And I can't tell you from the sponsor side, Liftoff Agent, it's more of a tech real estate marketing company. And we are that, hey, you got to put out a fire, Tim, or someone who's listening, right? We'll kick that down the road a week or maybe a month. So we see it all the time. But the problem is that we don't see enough of the calendar being used. And then we also see that agents, and this could be someone viewing right now or listening, they double book themselves because they actually don't live and die by the calendar. So then they will like, oh, customer just called, but I have something on my calendar that I already committed to. And my wife in our households, the one thing that you have is your word. And that's all you have. If you go back on your word, that's your integrity. And I see it all the time that individuals out there, and maybe someone listening or viewing right now, is like, I just got a call. I got to bend over backwards now and go meet this customer, and they don't live and die by their calendar or tell their customer they already have something blocked out. Does this time or that time work instead? What is your thoughts as far as living, die, and by the calendar, sticking with your word and not moving things around from the perspective of when a client calls? Is that something that you would do, or would you tell that customer, sorry, I'm already at that time blocked, but I do have X and Z available?
Yeah, I mean, the one asset that everyone has that's finite in this life is time. Like we all have time. Time is equal across everything. We all look at the same clocks. We all have night and day. So if we all have time, just depends how you value your time and how you prioritize your time. And a couple things with me. One, my priority is my family. Like my wife, my daughter, my dog. My mother-in-law just moved in with us about a year ago. So we are a multi-generational family. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm so blessed to have the life that I have. And I think for me, it's like, if that's the number one thing, that's great. But I have to work 40, 60, 70 hours a week in order to not only support the family that I have, but also make sure I dedicate enough time to them when the time matters. Because if I just like sit around for 2 hours during the day from 11 to 1 and my daughter gets home from work like a rocket, like flying in through my door at 3 o'clock, 2:45, 3 o'clock, and I skipped 2 hours out of my day, now I'm 2 hours behind and it's going to be an hour or so until I get to greet her, hang with her, give her a snack, spend some time, see what kind of ridiculous outfit she puts on, because she's a superstar. She's a singer, a little piano player.
I love it.
So it's like, I think it's just in general, you have to look at it as like time is your most valuable asset. Everyone has that same asset. So how do you use your time? And I look at it as like, if I block time for important things like content, like appointments, like you said, if someone calls me up and says, oh, can you show me this place in 2 hours and it's 15 minutes away? And I have other things going on in my life, professionally and personally. The answer is no. But here are some other dates and times that work for me. If they ghost me from there, guess what? They do not value my time. They value their time. And that means probably not the best first impression. So I look for people who not only value their time, but also value my time. They're looking for an advisor. Someone who values their time is probably going to be very valuable to them. Someone who doesn't just says, yeah, I'll see you there in 15 minutes, probably doesn't care what's going on in their day, and they may or may not be very good at what they're doing. So I think that also separates the person from the competition as well.
Very well said. I love that. I love the storytelling leading into like almost like the punchline. And it's so true. It is so true. And it's something that comes up for me as well as a father, and making sure that I do have that time and getting off so that way I can be able to be with her. And it's sometimes nice to say no. You know, it's like when you go through the process and always like, yes. There's, I think, a time for that. Maybe when you're new in the career, you're in your 20s, you're single, you're putting in the 16, 17, 18-hour days, you're working the weekends, you're doing whatever you got to do. And I feel like you get to a certain time in life where you're like, all right, I want to be with my family. I want to have that time. I want to be able to have different things for different activities. And I feel like that's where for me, I feel like that's true success, being able to say no, have that work-life balance for whatever that's worth and for whatever that means to the person who's listening. And be able to have that time with your family, have that time for your clients, have that time for yourself, or maybe, guys' time.
100%, man.
Wow. I love that. That's cool. So want to go to the segment about your podcast. I know you have a podcast, been doing some amazing interviews. I was checking out your YouTube channel, and you got a partner in the podcast as well. And so tell us a little bit about how you got founded, how it got started, and then the name too. I'm looking at your Instagram here. So Bricks and Wrist, like, how'd you come up with the name? How'd you find the co-host of the show? And why even start a podcast in general? Yeah. Maybe someone out there's listening is like on the fence. Maybe they want to start a podcast.
It probably started. So if I go back to the podcast history, it started in 2020 when quarantine happened. Yep. I did two things. One, I finally got on Instagram for the first time. So I didn't get on Instagram until I was about 40 years old. And then two, I started consuming a lot of podcasts. At the time, I was a partner running a brokerage, an independent brokerage in Philadelphia. We had a big team and we were doing lots of volume. So I started listening to podcasts, just be like, okay, how do I do this a little bit better? Like, what's someone doing in Gilbert, Arizona, let's say, that I'm not doing here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? So I started consuming a lot of content. And then let's fast forward to, this is going to be the summer of 2023. One of my good friends, we went to college together, same fraternity, but I've known him since I was 10 years old, just because we grew up like 5 minutes from each other. We were having a conversation. He runs an insurance brokerage, and I was running my residential real estate brokerage. And we were just like BSing. Like, I think I had been a guest on a podcast, and he's like, you know what? You should do that. You should start one. And I was like, you know what? Like, I've kind of thought about it, but I would never do that by myself. And I was like, wait a second. I'm like, you've been running your business for like over 10 years. I've been running my business like 2 years less than you. I'm like, we're relationship guys. Like, we have the same sense of humor. Like, we're boys. Like, why don't we do one together? And it like stopped him in his tracks. And he was like, you know what? I'd probably do that. I was like, okay, like, let's talk about it. So we talked for hours about like, what kind of show would it be? And who would we be speaking to? And like, how often would we do it? And he already had ideas, and so did I. Yeah. But the one thing that's really going to matter here, I just posted, it's so interesting you said this. I just posted my first article to Inman. So if you read real estate news, Inman is one of the better resources in the US. And it was how to do a podcast correctly so that you don't fail like the 99% of people who don't get past episode 20. So that was my whole thing. I mean, you're 600 episodes deep. So I think when we started, we're just like, let's plan it out. Like, we started an LLC. Like, let's give it a name. Let's, what's our cadence? Like, who's our audience? Like, what's our purpose? And I think doing all of that way, Norm, it really prepared us for the tough road ahead, because podcasting is not easy. As you know, it is an extremely difficult thing to keep up with. It is like a never ending grind of content and organization and social media marketing and people standing you up and running out of material and be like, I've already talked to 10 people like that. Who can I talk to? Like, you're just constantly have this creative block, and it sucks up so much of your time. It's a 7-day-a-week job. You are thinking about your podcast all the time. How can I make it better? Who can I talk to next? Like, what's my angle here? Like, should I have longer episodes? Should I have shorter episodes? And so Bricks and Risk, to answer your original question, Bricks is for real estate, which is me, and Risk is for insurance, which is Sean Mooney. And we just looked at it like it was a great name. He came up with it. I give him all the credit. And, we're gritty Philly guys. Like, we threw in like a graffiti lightning bolt. Like, we talk about cheesesteaks and the birds and like, our terrible accents and everything. So it's just, it's very Philly, like at its core, but it's very much like a small business kind of like motivational show.
Wow. No, congratulations. And I'm right there with you. That's why on my side, try to do the best I can to keep it as simple as possible. Like, I haven't even, and I could even say like, even like 566 here. And then call me crazy, started another one called the Liftoff Experience. And so I go by, I have it on me, Mr. Liftoff.
Oh, I love that.
And with the Liftoff Experience, sponsored by Liftoff Agent, after so many episodes of real estate versus technology, I'm like, I like it. Real estate, technology, that conversation. I'm like, I want to get into like a little bit more personal development. So I started this other one personally, professionally.
Awesome, man.
Liftoff. It's a 2-hour
congratulations
type thing. Thanks so much, man. It's only in person, a very, very different type of conversation, very elevated type. You could even go into like a little woo at times, but I like to explore. So that's that. And yeah, so thank God for the team to help with a lot of the editing, the production and what have you on the sponsor side with Liftoff Agent. And it's so true, like wanting to have variety and someone different. And I haven't even really maximized. I saw you guys had the website and everything else. Like, we have like a resource center, like at liftoffagent.com, but we don't even have our own website. We don't even have an LLC. So you guys went way deeper than we have. We don't have sponsors, because I know there's so much more you could do, from monetization, merch, sponsors. Like, it is its own business. And for us, we just did it to have conversations and go deeper and not need to be like, hey, we're a company, like we do real estate marketing, like that type of thing. It's more so like, let's have a conversation. Let's meet, let's talk. And then it's so great because for us per se, because we do real estate marketing, we can then point our customers to different podcasts, whatever the lane is, whether it's a technology type specific thing they need to hear about, or a lane of marketing, or this could be, hey, you want to start a podcast? Like, listen up to Tim on our show, that we recorded with him. So that's kind of how we've navigated it. So for someone who wants to start a podcast, and you guys have done the LLC and everything else, have you set the intention to generate revenue? Have you already started to generate revenue? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, I think when we organize ours, Norm, we did it in the vein of, this will elevate our individual businesses. And why will it do that? Because we are going to not only build relationships with our audience, our viewers and watchers. We do everything with video, which I would highly recommend to everyone. And on top of that, we're building these relationships with like our guests, and just like, I mean, like when you interview someone, as it's like really, it's a very humbling thing to be asked to be on someone else's show. So one, thank you. I really appreciate you asking me. And two, like, you're really trying to get to know someone, which is also humbling. So after you have a guest on, you just have this like different relationship. It's almost like more of an abundance mindset. Like, you wanted to be on the show to share what you knew. We wanted you on the show to share your knowledge with the world. And maybe you dug our style, or like the way we are, or like how we act, or whatever. And then you just build these relationships. So kind of what we've done. So elevating it to help our individual businesses, But then what's also happened along the way, so we've been doing it like just over 2 years and over 100 episodes.
Congrats.
We've built a community. And we have people everywhere I go now. I see someone, there's like, love the podcast, or like, I listened to this episode, or like, keep going. Like,
Nice.
it's really good. Like, we get feedback because we're local guys. Like, I go pick up my daughter from school and someone's like, yo, bricks and risk, and it's just, I get that now, which is awesome. And you build this community of people that are just like, I'm into what you guys are slinging. Like, it is good stuff. Like, I'm getting something out of it. Like, I had a buddy from college was like, I just saw him a couple months ago. He's like, I'm not only like getting some like tips like to help myself in business, but I'm getting some tips on life, man. I'll just be honest. I was like, whoa, dude, that's like super powerful. And for me, I just love helping people. I love adding value to people's lives. And, doing the podcast has allowed me to just have this like evergreen content, this omnipresence out there now, where it's like, you can see it on YouTube, you can listen on Spotify, you can listen on Apple. Like, you come to one of our events and you're eating pizza and drinking beer and just talking to us about like the show and guests and episodes. And it's awesome, man. It's like,
dude,
it's the best marketing I've ever done in my entire life.
Congratulations, man. That is absolutely phenomenal. And I can attest to that as well. I had this gentleman that Craig, and he up in Canada. Apparently his mom lives in Scottsdale, and he shoots me over a message on Instagram and says, hey man, been watching your podcast for a long time. Love what you're doing. Would love to be on the show. I'm gonna go visit my mom. I think that's kind of how it worked. I don't exactly remember the exact story, but long story short, comes all the way from Canada, and he's going to go visit his mom, stops here, gets on the show. Wow. We pod out and have some fun. And it's just so interesting how people watch and they don't always comment or like or subscribe. They just, whatever. They're driving to work. They're in traffic, whatever they're doing. They're sitting on the shitter. I don't know. But they're listening. You know what I'm saying? We're unleashed here. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, it's funny because, the way, because we talk with such slang, we're like, dude, people are like actually like listening to us spit for like 30 to 60 minutes at a time. And all we're doing is talking business. Now, again, we're trying to crack some jokes. Yeah. We're trying to make fun of each other a little bit, for our little quirks and stuff like that. But overall, I'm like, dude, the fact that anyone is taking the time to actually listen to what we have to say is just like mind boggling. And again, it's very humbling. It just encourages, like, if you like it, what you're doing, like, I can tell that you do. You just want to keep going. You're like, oh man, how can I make this a little bit better? How can I and then you do the reps, and the more reps you do, the better you get at it. So it's just like, it's like working out at the gym. Like, the more you go, the better you get at it, the stronger you get. You're just never going to stop going because you just want to be healthy. Like, that's what you want to do. And podcasting, same thing. It's reps. Like, you just want to keep it rolling, make it better, like have a bigger audience, help more people. It's amazing.
It is. And it's cool too, because we live such fast-paced lives. So this, for an example, this podcast, 60 minutes, gives us an opportunity to slow down for a minute or 60 and be able to have more of an intimate conversation without the text, the call, the phone, the daughter, the wife, the mother-in-law, all the things. You're like, all right, cool. I can just like be able to have a second. And the things that you learn from one another and the things that you get to do to also help someone else is awesome. Because, it's like, how often outside of just like a podcast, do you have like that time just to have a cool conversation with a boy? It's like, It's far near in between because we're so dang busy these days. Outside of maybe, obviously, our wives, right? We might have a nice conversation with them because that's our other half. But outside of that, it's like, it's not like we're in high school anymore or college and have that time where you could just be like, sitting down, chilling and having a beer, talking shit. And now it's like, this is like I feel like the new age.
It is, man. That. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I love that. So I'm right there with you. The podcast, I think, is a great idea. Whoever is viewing and listening, one thing I will say for this segment, ending it out, anything you want to add to before we move on to the next segment, I want to go into a little bit more of your real estate business and the team that you have, is that I think a podcast for any agent out there, this would be my idea for them, vendor podcasts. Interview all your vendors, the people that you work with, even potentially your customers, your loan officer, your stager, anyone who is a part of your ecosystem within your business, I can imagine could be a Rolodex on a YouTube channel that can tie into potentially your website. You could have on specific pages. And then when someone says, I need a carpet cleaner, you're like, oh my God, I interviewed my carpet cleaner and he's the first person to ever start a business in his family. I got a podcast with him, sent you the email with his contact information. You want to watch the podcast, it's worth a listen, and you can do it on your drive to work. And then they can get deeper connected with that person. And then that elevates brand awareness for you. And then the carpet cleaner, and who knows who they'll share it to or with. And that could potentially give additional referral business.
Totally on board with that. I think it's more like an SOI approach, your sphere of influence. Yeah. And then the other tip that I'll give too, before we move on, is be aware of the failure rate. Like, I tell this to people in real estate all the time. So many people I know say, like, I'm thinking about getting my license. I'm like, look, I am the most optimistic person you will ever meet. Be careful. Like, this is a tough business, man. Like, it's not easy to succeed. Here are the stats. So, I would give the same stats in podcasting. 99% don't make it past 20 episodes. How are you going to get past 20 episodes? Do you know 20 vendors? Are you going to do it once a week or once every 2 months? Like, how often are you going to do this thing? There's no right or wrong answer. Just be aware of the pitfalls, because it's such an exciting thing to start and get into. It's an extremely difficult thing to keep going. So as long as you're prepared, you'll do very well with it.
Oof, I love that. I love that. And one thing I'll say before we get into the next segment is, speaking of trying something and failing, I ever heard of that guy? Can't think of his name off the top of my head, but his brand is School of Hard Knocks. He goes out, interviews millionaires, does the short form content.
Yep.
So now I had the idea to take that same concept and go out to Fashion Square in Scottsdale and ask strangers if they own or rent.
Wow. I like that.
And if they own a home, do they remember the agent they worked with before, and would they use them again? And if they rent a home, why do they rent? What's holding them back? What type of content do they want to see from the general public? So I just went out the first time, 30 people I approached, 15 yeses, 15 nos, two own, rest rent, 13 rent. And I just went out again for the second time and actually got like 20 or 25 interviews and only like 5 no's out of, I think, 30 people I approached. So a lot better success rate from failing, not really failing forward, but I guess you could say it was a little rough and it didn't flow as much, but the second time a little better. But man, starting a podcast and finding someone in your SOI, I will just say from experience, a little bit easier than going to the general public and asking complete strangers if you could interview them.
Right.
So it's pick your lane.
Right. I love that idea. It's great.
Yeah. I'm a challenge junkie. So whether it's the gym or whatever, I'm always just like, I'm going full force. Real Broker. So I would love to go in the segment of, you're with Real Broker. It's a technology cloud-based brokerage. I love the shameless plug with the hat. It's an easy way to subliminally show, who you're rocking, who you're with. You built a team. They have a whole downline program within the organization for anyone who's listening. How'd you get connected with Real Broker? What made you go into that direction from running an independent brokerage? And we'll start there with the segment.
Yeah, so let's go back 15 years. My first 5 years in real estate, I worked for 2 independent brokerages in Philly. One was less than 10 people and one was just under 30 people. So I got like 2 different vibes. After 5 years, I got a broker's license in Pennsylvania, and that allowed me the opportunity to start my own brokerage. So the reason I started with independents, one, I wasn't really finding my spot. Like, nothing against the big boys and girls out there. I just didn't dig any of them. And I was in corporate America for like 10 years. I'm like, I don't want any of that crap in it. I don't want that rah-rah bullshit. Like, I'm just not... I'm not into it. So I just wanted to be like a little bit more creative, a little bit more entrepreneurial, like get off my back, but be here when I need you type approach.
Yeah.
So after 5 years, started my own, and this is 2014. So I'm gonna paint a picture for you. Our first year in business, we would go out to these events with, 50, 100 real estate agents, and people would like laugh in our face when we told them to start our own brokerage from scratch. But then like you meet someone, they're like, oh, tell me about it. I was like, well, one thing we did is we're paperless. Okay, this is 2014. And people are like, what? Paperless? You don't, where do you keep your files? I'm like, they're on the cloud. How does the state audit you if I'm like, dude, it's allowed. You're allowed to keep electronic records. You don't need paper anymore. The state said you don't even need it. So like something as simple, just like Google Calendar is to my life, going paperless with a brokerage was like earth shattering to all these people out there. They're like, what are you doing? Like people didn't get it. So again, that's 2014. Was with Copper Hill Real Estate for almost 10 years. So when the partnership ended at Copper Hill and it was time for myself and my brother Ryan to pivot and do something different, the reason I went with Real was because, in my opinion, it was like an entrepreneurial skeleton. And I'm an entrepreneur. Like it was fantastic technology, like plenty of support, great financial structure, amazing culture. Like everyone, it's very collaborative. Like, and people say that like we're collaborative. It's like, no, like there's collaborative and then there's collaborative. And I'm not just pitching that because I happen to really like them. I'm pitching that because that's what the culture's really like. So for me, being a collaborator, Real has been a fantastic fit for me. Plus I'm also a developer. So we flip real estate. We do about 5-6 home flips a year. And we've also reimagined a couple buildings. So we own over 30 rental units.
Nice.
And Real was like very flexible with all that. They're like, yeah, no, as long as you're doing this, as long as you're doing that, like they give 3 free deals a year. Like that's huge for me. Yeah. Because if we're acquiring things and reselling them, which is what a flip is, we save tens of thousands of dollars just on that. So like, for me, Real was a very good fit for my business. It's not a good fit for everyone's business. And then let's talk about the rev share or the stock options they give. I try not to get in this because I try not to like use that as like a selling point. Yeah. But if you're a productive agent, whether you're a productive solo agent or a productive team, doesn't matter if you're flipping homes or helping buyers and sellers. If you're productive and you have some people with you, you make additional money that you would not make at other brokerages. And it's not like a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. Like if you're connected with the right people and you're all working alongside each other, like it is like a second form of income. So not only is it a great fit, number one for my business, but then there's like an opportunity that if people within my network say like, hey, what are you doing there? Like that might be a good fit for me. And they want me to be their sponsor. Like they want my support. They want to be aligned with me. You don't have to be on my team, but you just want to be aligned with me. We work at the same place and we're speaking the same language. Like I'm going to make money. And guess what? You're going to save money. And now you can reinvest that back into your business.
Wow. I mean, sounds like a no-brainer to me. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, that's awesome that they give you the flexibility, the freedom. Why not have some type of rev share to be able to make that happen? And when it comes to the team, so your team, then I can imagine they're at Real, then they're a part of, would you say like your downline then? And then you serve and support them with resources, technology, tools, whatever the case may be. I'm sure the podcast also is something that's a value add too, that they could tune into as a part of your team.
Yeah, my team's very small. So it's basically myself and my brother Ryan are the two producers. We did about 10, 11 million in volume last year. And then we have just a couple other part-time agents who are people that I've known for years. They do a deal here and a deal there. So my team is very small. My team is basically my brother and I going out and servicing people in our network. We're not trying to grow this big volume thing and set the world on fire. Then the development business is a second entity that also is really more Ryan's full-time job. It is more like my second full-time job, if you want to call it. But then my network at Real is like just over 20 people. These are just other people that I know. They either have teams or are solo agents and have connected with me since I've been at Real and said, hey, you know, I kind of want to do that too. Like, it seems like a good fit for my business. And I've talked to plenty of people and we're like having a conversation about it. And I will tell them, honestly, I don't think this is a good fit for you. Not that I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying just because I know you pretty well and I know what you want. And I don't think this brokerage is what you want. I think you might want to look at A, B, or C because they offer more the vibe that you want. And there is no right fit or wrong fit. it's really just like, where is your fit? Like, where do you fit in, where it's like, it's giving you everything that I get out of my brokerage? Because I love the reason I'm wearing my hat. I love where I work. Like, it's great, man. I never thought I'd be working for a big brokerage after 15 years because I went strictly independent. But it's where it is now. It's where the times are. We're cloud-based. We're online-based. Like, if you got a personal brand, it's amazing.
I love that. I love that. I want to get into, in this segment, a bit about transitioning from being a real estate professional, right? And you're doing what you're doing in transaction volume and gross commission earned. Now going into like the fix and flip and then doors. There's something to be said about how within real estate, right? You said it's not for everyone. It's super hard. And there's something to be said about like, there's peaks and valleys. And as you know, the market right now, you know, it was after COVID and all that crap, it was crazy for sellers, and then it got a little bit better for buyers. Now it's kind of like an even market. And there's something to be said about having doors and having opportunities where you can have cash flow consistently coming in to weather, you could say, potentially storms. What got you into the fix and flip and then owning, you know, 30 doors now, and not just did the real estate thing and only in sync in that lane?
Yeah, when I first got in, so 2010, again, had the mortgage background. So I was good with numbers, but I didn't love numbers. And I looked at it as like, okay, I got the financial background. And I was just very interested in real estate investment, like development, flips, holds, you know, converting warehouses, like new construction, you know, repurposing things, adaptive reuse, like all this stuff I was highly, highly interested in. And Philly is just one of those like couple 100-year-old cities where like things are constantly being like reinvented. Neighborhoods go up and neighborhoods go down. And like, I think just seeing all that from the beginning, I said, look, I want to help my SOI, but I also want to build a base of investors because investors are buying properties throughout the year. They might buy one, they might buy 10. So I just said, I want to be a very good investor agent. So I was, and I worked with a bunch of investors in my first 5 years. I ended up cutting bait with almost all of them, except for one. And the one that I stuck with, I ended up helping them acquire and flip about 25 homes over like a 3 or 4 year period. Because I really doubled down. Like they knew who I was and what I offered. And I love them for just who they are. So we just started crushing it. Like they would send me a property, I would analyze it. We would see it same day. We make an offer that night. And, you know, I was very conservative and everything we did, they're always making more money. So after we did this 25 times, they basically said to me, why don't we do one together? So it happened organically. And at the time with my partners at Copper Hill, I said, look, you guys want to jump in? You want to do one? They're like, oh my gosh, yes. So then since then, our development team, which is 4 people today, we've done about 30 flips together. And, you know, a little over 4 years ago, we bought a warehouse that was like a maker space. So like commercial spaces for like creative types. So that was more like acquire, raise capital and hold and manage correctly. Like we've got the rents up 30%, things like that. And then the second big project we did for our next 16 doors was an old Catholic school conversion into residential apartments. And that's 16 units.
Interesting.
So just doing those, you do the flips to create income and build relationships and keep your, you know, your subcontractors busy and keep the deals flowing. And then you develop real estate and hold it to build wealth. Like that is a wealth building strategy. You want to do that because you know all the benefits of real estate: appreciation, tax benefits, cash flow, you know, them paying down your principal, you know, neighborhoods getting better. If you hit a single 10 years ago, maybe it's a home run 10 years later. So things like that, like understanding trends, like, and once you know all that, it's like, in my opinion, because I invest plenty of money in the stock market, like there's no better investment than real estate because it's like something that you can touch, that you can walk through, that someone can live in. I mean, it can improve someone's life. Like you're helping a neighborhood. Like there's all these different things. I put money in the stock market. It's like, I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, okay, got it. You know, that's about it. And some people love that and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I love that too, but real estate for me, it's like, there's a higher purpose to it. There's lots more ways to get intangible benefits. And it's been great. We've been doing that for about 5 years.
Wow. Congratulations on that. And
thanks, man.
Yeah, the fix and flip's fun, My wife and I got into it, did about eight or so flips the past couple of years. Arizona has a lot of snowbirds. So for us, we have the 55 plus and a lot of these mobile home. So we did a lot of the mobile home thing. And then after the
Okay.
Canadian dollar and the US dollar, Canadian dollar just went way down. And so basically, and the market is just so soft, and then lot rents and everything else. So we pulled out of that, just doing like more of the short-term Airbnb stuff.
Okay.
But the warehouse thing, man, I love that concept. I always thought to myself, it'd be cool. I'm a car guy. So I've been all these car groups, and I have a GTR, TRX, just to name a couple cars that I have.
Awesome.
And so I always thought it'd be cool to have like a warehouse collective concept. So you can have car storage, entrepreneur hangout, and then you can add in like podcast room, place for headshots,
Yeah.
maybe daycare for like single moms that want to go there and be able to get some work done. You can meet people there. My wife is an international tea master, so having her Reds and Tico, shameless plug, in there too could be super fun and cool. And it's 117 3 months out of the year here in Arizona. So I'm like,
Yeah.
an indoor air conditioned
Yeah.
cool spot for car shows and hang out. I think that'd be really cool. Not to mention how many people out there have actually some one-on-one time with someone that has a dream car that they wish to have, or has the lifestyle that someone who's young wants to potentially have one day. So I love the repurpose stuff, man. It sounds like you're doing some really cool stuff in Philly. And I think that it makes a lot of sense for no one's viewing and listening to think about, after they do have success, how can they have some doors and have that where I feel like you get more control there too. Way more.
Yeah, it's like, I look at it as just, it's reinvesting in your business. Like if you work in corporate America, what's reinvesting in yourself? It's like putting money in your 401k. You're taking some of your pay so that you never see it, you never spend it, and they're matching some of it. And you're like, I'm not looking at this thing for like 40 years. Like it's just going to grow into something. But then when you're in real estate and you're out there and you're hustling, you're looking at it like a different way. It's the same kind of thing. You got to take some of your commission dollars or some of the hard-earned income from your household, and you have to reinvest it in other things if you want to build wealth. Because if you're just going to stick it in a bank account and a 401k only, like there's only really one way it can go. Real estate can go like many different directions. You're going to make some bad bets, but you're going to hit some grand slams that you never thought you were going to hit. And you're like, oh my gosh, that thing like 20x. And you're like helping people. You're giving back to the community. You're beautifying like a block in like an old city that, has some warts on it, man. Philly is 300 years old. Like, there are some blocks that need some love. And when they do, people like us come in and we're trying to be respectful of the neighborhood and the history. And then we do it right.
That's super, super cool. And kudos to you and what you've done with that. And I think the biggest thing too is when you get into entrepreneurship compared to working a 9 to 5, it gives you options, and not just options from the perspective of what you can do to be able to make income, but also gives you options where, when you have stocks or you have crypto or you have an IRA or you have investment properties and multiple doors, like, you could shift and make a move, whether you see, oh, I want to pay something down, or I want to buy that, I want to move some equity out of maybe stocks, bonds, annuities, crypto into a car, because depending on the car type, they can go up in value, because a lot of people that have lots of money use cars and have warehouses, and they store their money in something like that, which people would think is not an asset, but depending on the car itself, they do go up, and it's a big business there as well. So I just love the flexibility asset. I think that's so cool to do once you get to a point where you can have multiple things going on. And when you have those different lanes, you can kind of pull from things as you wish and be like, I pulled a couple strings. We're going to Hawaii for a week. All right, fam. You know what I'm saying? Because you could do
dude, it's I'm same as you, man. Like you reinvest it to build wealth or get a little income from a flip, but you're really reinvesting it back into your life. And I'm going to be 47 this year, and I just look at it as like, my kid's only going to be a kid once. So like if I can take her to Disney World for a week and just give her like the time of her life, I'm going to do it. Like if I can take her to Switzerland in 2-3 years, which is what we want to do, we're going to do it. Like, amen. Have these experiences, because she's never going to forget them. And and we're never going to forget it either. So
you're 100%. It's funny. With too much alignment, I'm actually 11 days out from Japan, and my daughter's already traveled.
That's where I went for my 40th.
Oh no, that's where I'm going for my 40th. What the hell? I'm about to be 40
Dude.
March 14th. What are you, like a brother from another mother? This is hilarious.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah. I went there with both my brothers for like 9 days for my 40th. I have two brothers and a sister, and not to cut you off, I'm
yeah, you're
sorry.
good.
We all took trips for our 40th, and for mine, we went to Japan, we went to Tokyo, and we went to Kyoto. So dude, that's too funny, man.
That is hilarious. Yeah. So our team on Lift Off Agent side that sponsors the show is in the Philippines. And we also have another team member that's in Japan. And then my wife, for her tea company, her matcha supplier is in Japan outside of Tokyo in Shakagaga. I'm not even going to try to say the name. So we're actually going to first we go out there with the team, and then her father's coming. So my father-in-law and his new wife. And so they're going to come as well. So first week is going to be Tea Garden, the whole nine. March 14th, that's when it's my 40th. And then the second week is going to be, we're going to go to Disneyland. And I wanted to rent the GTR,
Awesome.
do something cool with the car things too. But yeah, so daughter's got to do a lot of traveling as well. And this is already our third or fourth trip back overseas, which has been nice. It's a good excuse when you have overseas team to be able to travel overseas and it all be a write-off.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. You know what I mean?
Fantastic.
So that's super cool. So I'm basically following your footsteps, and we just met.
Dude, this is too funny. Like, we got way too much in common.
Way too much in common. Like, what in the world? That is crazy. So we're close to the end. We have another 10 minutes. I'm going to do something different for our show today, and kind of I'm going to change the roles. And if I was to give you kind of the host role for the last 10 minutes, is there anything that you want to kind of questions or anything that you want to lead with, or a segment that you want to get into?
Well, let me ask you this. So you've been, how many episodes? You said you're like 600 plus?
566, and we got about another 4 or 5 in the queue, and then the other show that I have of about 40 episodes there.
Yeah. So you're there. You're over 600 episodes.
Yep.
What made you get into podcasting, Norm?
2020. So when I first got in the business 11 plus years ago in the real estate industry, I don't have my license. I'm just the CEO and co-founder of this organization and the main host here. I used to actually go to offices. I used to go to brokerages. I used to do broker presentations, meet with agents, bring my laptop. And this is like during the time where agents would be like, well, I don't know, this LinkedIn thing, I don't want anyone knowing who's following me, and I don't want my competition to go and try to steal my clients. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Okay, I'm like, it doesn't work that way. And then Google, and I would try to help agents like, hey, like there's something called Google, and they could search your name, and I would look them up. And so from then to COVID, and then not being able to meet anybody anymore, I was just like, I really want to be able to go and meet people and still talk with them. So the podcast stemmed from the process of being able to agents having this kind of like reluctance to want to adapt to technology. So it's real estate focused podcasts versus technology, me wanting to meet people, not being able to do it in person anymore. So then that's when it kicked off. And then I was always told like, you got the voice. And so I'm like, what? And I always joked about, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you ready?
Yeah.
Like kind of like that, kind of like,
I
like
love
you could say host for sports, whatever. And so I was like, oh, let's do that. And so I was just like, it just seemed fitting to me. And then of course there's so much you can learn from so many different people. So it basically turned into an awesome opportunity to be able to learn, and then doing something with a real estate marketing company and learning from over 600 individuals in the industry, just from the podcast perspective. That's not even like keynotes. That's not even like strategy sessions that we have and all. I'm 16,000 plus I've met over the years in the real estate industry. It's really gave me that opportunity to be well diverse and also be able to say, well, here's my resume. I think I'm consistent. I've met a few people, and it's actually been amazing because by default, like what you said, it elevates the brand and business happens where the gal I told you about who was on just like last month, and Angela, she's like, to tell me about this lifts off thing. And I'm like, oh, we do websites and this and that. And she's like, oh, I was going to build a website over the break for Christmas, and it didn't work out. And then she just closed $1 million deal. Escrow was yesterday. She's signing up today. So it happened by default, right? Because that way they see like, hey, we're out there, we're doing things, we're adding value. And so that's how it all started. Long story short.
Yeah. All right. So you said something in there that I thought was really interesting. You said consistent, and you and I both know that if you're not consistent with your podcast, it probably won't last. How do you stay consistent? Like what's your secret? What's your superpower? How do you do that?
I would say it takes 30, 60, 90 days to form a habit that turns into a behavior. And so I'm now to a point where it's just a behavior. Now, don't get me wrong. I do get tired and I do get kind of like, hey, I don't want to do this right now. But
Right.
having the team and then training them to find guests. And then once they are trained and then they're sending you over these guests. And so now I'm booked out for this show all the way throughout April. It
Nice.
helps tremendously because then they understand like the avatar type and who we're looking for and the technology maybe we want to talk about. And so the team helps motivate me. This is now a behavior as well. And then stories like this, meeting someone and having this like, what the heck? Are we brothers from another mother? Like
Yeah.
keeps me going. And true story, like Angela, who I talked to, who's going to sign up, like I literally, no joke, rescheduled because it was December. No, it's like stop having meetings during the holidays. You don't need to do that anymore. I'm like, all right, honey. So I rescheduled her podcast and I literally worked 2 weeks straight, was about to reschedule her podcast. She was sitting out front of my house and she's like, if we don't do this today, then we're not going to move forward and film another podcast. And then she came in. It was an amazing show. So grateful that it did. So it's those type of stories that keep me motivated, keep me going, because it's like you never know who you'll meet and you'll never know the serendipity like today's show here, which is crazy.
Yep. I love it, man. I appreciate you sharing all that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So 5 minutes left. At the end of all of our shows, we like to put a nice bow tie on it. So there's a lot that our guests can unpack. I highly recommend, I mean, it's like reading a book twice. I'm sure someone out there can watch this again and get amazing information and learn something new. What would you like to leave with our viewers and listeners that they can apply to their business right this second as we close out our show?
Yeah, one thing I've learned personally, and I've learned this in lots of different ways in my life, is like, don't get out ahead of your skis. Like, I think not everyone, a lot of people who are in real estate just think bigger is better. They think more volume is more success. And here's what I'll tell you, because we've done it. We had almost 50 agents at our independent brokerage in 2022, and we did almost 100 million in volume just in that year alone. And I was absolutely miserable. And I didn't like it. I felt like I'd kind of like gotten to like the top of a mountain that I wasn't even sure why I was climbing. And I'm looking down, I'm like, okay, guess I'm going back down from here, because I didn't want to go any further. It just kind of like happened. And then, it took a couple of years. My one partner decided to leave, which was a good situation because it allowed me to pivot and be where I am right now, which is the middle of a Wednesday, and having all the time and flexibility in the world to talk to great people like you and educate more people out there about what they want. And some people, you know what? They're like, Tim, I want to be a $500 million team. I want to be a $2 billion team. And you know what I'd say? I'd say, good for you. Go do that if that's what you want. You may get to that point and say, I want to go even further. But a lot of people will get to that point and say, well, I don't really, I don't need any more money. I don't need any more pieces of acrylic that say I'm number one. Like, I don't need any more podcasts to tell me like I'm very successful. I just don't need that anymore. And then you might be old and wrinkled and be like, God damn, I wasted my life on this nonsense. So my advice to people is, don't get out ahead of your skis. Build your business organically, do it the right way, do it on your terms, and make sure you always value the most important thing in your life, which is time.
Very, very well said. Yeah. I'm right there with you. At the end of the day, it's like, it's a tortoise in the hare. And sometimes it's nice just to be the tortoise and slow and steady wins the race.
That's me.
No reason, right? It's no reason to get totally. It's like, I saw the interview with, if you watched it, with Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozy. And Alex Hormozy made his like whatever $100 million in his book launch one day. And you literally watched that podcast, and it was like literally he broke it down for Alex, and Alex like had like an epiphany on the show. It was just like a new found opening and awakening of like, it's not always about the success, the glam, the money, the numbers, the rewards. It's time, work-life balance, freedom, family,
Yeah.
you know, and
Enjoy
just
yourself. Enjoy
Yeah.
yourself.
You got to, man. Tim, this has been absolutely phenomenal. From our first encounter, we've never met, to
It's awesome.
I guess brothers from another mother,
That's right.
another state. Thanks so much for your time today and your knowledge and your wisdom for our viewers and listeners. And thanks to you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for staying for 60 minutes. Give yourself a pat on the back. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hey, go follow Tim. Go check him out. Thanks to our sponsor, Liftoff Agent, for production and everything else, the video team behind the scenes. And as you all know, it's our intention for you to take things from our episode to apply your business and have more massive success. We'll see you all in the next one.